We start this morning with news out of Gabon, as 12 Gabonese soldiers have appeared on television saying that they are in control of the country. They have also announced that they are cancelling the results of the country's recent election and dissolving all the institutions of the republic. It comes hours after Gabon's electoral body announced President Ali Bongo, who had been re-elected for a third term in Saturday's general election. He's said to have won with 64% of votes cast. Mr. Bongo's reappointment would have continued the family's 56-year grip on power of the resource-rich but poverty-hit nation. His father, Omar Bongo, was its president from 1967 until his death in 2009.
In the name of the people of Gabon and as guarantors of the institutions, we have decided to defend peace by putting an end to the current regime. To this end, the general elections of August 26, 2023 and the truncated results are cancelled. The borders are closed until further notice. All the institutions of the Republic are dissolved.
Toutes les institutions de la République sont dissoutes.
Well, Kay, another coup in Africa, following shortly after the Niger coup happening in West Africa. Now, this is in Central Africa, Gabon.
Yeah, you've given the stats, a country that is just about 2.34 million, 2,341,000. That's the estimated population as at 2021. A very small country, but one that has some resources that should make it a nation that is thriving. But when you have one family run a nation like it's their family property, it is difficult to not hail the military from coming into power. But like my dear friend and colleague here, Rufai, said, you can't have illegality take over illegality. It's not done. Yes, it is not done. It is absolutely wrong to have coups anywhere on the continent of Africa, and we have to criticize it, we have to rebuke it, we have to chastise it, we have to say it is wrong. It can never be right under any condition. But there are certain situations that make you begin to wonder whether this is a reason, or maybe it's not, but I think it is a reason to listen to what the likes of George Weah, the president of Liberia, what he is saying. He's saying that Africa must listen to its people. Africa must look at action to be taken against those sit-tight leaders. How can one family choose to be in charge of a nation, run it to the ground, and then step on it and scrub their feet and trash it to nonsense? How can one family do that? One family for almost 60 years. This young Mr. Bongo, who's really not young, 64 years old, who's not now been pushed out of office, wants a third term. He's been there for more than 12 years. He wants a third term to keep him there. 2009 till now, that's about 13 years that he's been in office. And he still wants to remain in office. He's probably grooming his son and his daughter to become the next president and prime minister of the country and become the ministers as well. So it's just, it doesn't make any sense. So two clear things. Number one, coup is wrong. It should never be allowed and encouraged in Africa. But at the same time, African leaders, starting from our own dear nation, the largest black nation on earth, Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, responsibility and weight of being an African leader is on your shoulder. You are the only one that's being invited for a side meeting with President Biden. You have to make it clear that every leader on the continent of Africa that chooses to sit tight and turn a nation into their family business must be kicked out of office, legally or illegally, by every means possible. They have to be kicked out. And you have to look at how we make Africa better. So, Rufai and Ayo, yeah. I think I've said my piece.
Rufai.
Ayo, today words fail me. When you take a snapshot of our beautiful continent, the beauty is fading away because of the madness of its leaders. The beauty of Africa is fading away because people that are supposed to be proudly Africa, that are supposed to call on Mama Africa every time to bring peace and succor So its people are the ones taking the peace away from its people. The beauty of Africa is fading away. And I ask, where is Africa today? All over Africa, we have returned to the era of coups. Between 1957 and 1990, we had over 100 coups in Africa. In the space of a couple of months now, we've had 2 coups. The question is, where is it going to happen next on the African continent? What starts the cycle of all these coups? Bad leadership. But like I always say, you can't solve illegality with another illegality. Because the truth is, you just set up a chain reaction. So with this, I would like to condemn that coup this morning in Gabon. I would also condemn Ali Bongo, the seat-tied president of Gabon, that inherited the presidency like it's a family stool from his father, Omar Bongo. Despite the wealth and the oil resource in Gabon, never provided anything for the citizens, but provided all for themselves. Despite his own ill health, we all saw when Ali Bongo had a stroke and he had to move around in a gingerly form, but he still went ahead to sit tight in power. And that's what you see all over Africa. Should I talk about Bouteflika? Should I talk about Emerson Mnangagwa? That now he's won another election that are highly disputed in Zimbabwe. Ali Bongo pushed himself on and on. He finally won the election, but the coup plotters said, no, we can't allow this to continue in our country. When are we going to have that Africa that Thomas Isodowe Noel Sankara talks about? When are we going to have that Africa that Thomas Sankara will always say, la colonialism, abar. Imperialism, abar. Down with imperialism. Down with colonialism. Down with coups. Bad leadership, abar. When are we going to have that Africa? That sweet Africa. That bad leadership, imperialism, colonialism, everything bad will be a thing of the past. Today I cry for Africa, but I hope I don't cry too long.
Well, Gabon or Republic, Gabonais in its French, the French word for the country called Gabon, should or ought to be one of the richest countries on the continent of Africa, especially because of its many resources and the small population. So in terms of per capita income, it should be a thriving economy. However, unfortunately, due to bad leadership, has already been explained, and what almost seems like a monarchy, the country has not been able to achieve its full potential. And we saw reactions just yesterday into this morning. We got the reports that the military in Gabon have staged the coup, citing bad leadership and doing it on behalf of the Gabonese people and taking back their country. Already it's been established how many years the President Ali Bongo has been in office, his father inheriting the position from his father, Omar Bongo. And the fact that even though in many countries on the continent of Africa, we talk about the fact that we practice democracy, but democracy looks like an imperialism, looks like monarchy system, looks like a family business, doesn't look anything like what democracy should look like. And in a flawed democracy, you will find instances like this. This will make the 8th coup in recent times on the continent of Africa, a number of them situated in West Africa. Now here in Central Africa, Gabon has, if it's successful, will be the 8th. Now, a few things to note. The elections which produced or reproduced Ali Bongo as president on Sunday when he was announced as president, having said to have won 60% of the vote, was said to have been flawed and wrought with irregularities. One, they said some foreign broadcast stations were not allowed to participate. Two, some foreign observers as well were prevented from accessing. They actually cut off internet source and power at some point during the elections. They also said nationwide there were people who had protested, yet the government or the government didn't listen to the agitations of the people and presented a winner following that grossly flawed elections. Following that, we have seen the result. Again, as has been established, there is no justification for an unconstitutional response to a democracy, which a coup is. However, as has been established as well, especially during the Nigerian coup, if we don't deal with the civilian coup, then we should prepare ourselves for a military coup. And what do I mean by civilian coups? Where governments or individuals decide to make leadership or governing over the people a personal ambition and make it that of a family business. When the rule of law is disregarded and disobeyed flagrantly, when the leaders want a lifetime presidency for themselves with illegal pushing of their terms in office, these are civilian coups. And so if we must condemn military coups, we also must condemn the root, which are civilian coups across countries in Africa. I'm hoping that ECOWAS and the AU will respond to this and that we can contain this matter very soon. We'll move on to our next story. Yesterday evening, at the British Deputy High Commissioner's residence in Ikoyi, Lagos, a welcome reception was held for the new Deputy High Commissioner in Lagos, Johnny Baxter. Rise News morning show producer Ozzy Okoli was at the event.
Following the announcement of Johnny Baxter as the new British Deputy High Commissioner in Lagos, a reception was organized to welcome him at his new residence in Ikoyi.
It is a real privilege for me to be here in Nigeria, and particularly to be in Lagos.
He takes over from Ben Cleveland Jones, who recently concluded 3 years as Deputy High Commissioner in Lagos. Baxter is described as an experienced diplomat who has worked in different parts of the world. Prior to becoming the British Deputy High Commissioner in Lagos, he served as His Majesty's Ambassador to the Republic of South Sudan and Deputy Director, Finance and Performance Department at the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office.
For me, it is incredible to come to such a vibrant and entrepreneurial place with such a strong creative industry, and I'm looking forward to meeting more people in the creative industries. The links in those industries are very, very strong with the UK, and that's a fantastic thing for me to follow up on. My postings to date haven't given me those sorts of experiences, so it's going to be really exciting to be doing that, as well as the more normal things of working with government, working with civil society, and getting to know the business community here. And one of the things that I always do is I try and look for the books and the novels that get written either about a country or by people from that country. And the fantastic thing about Nigeria is there are so many amazing Nigerian novelists, and I spent a good 2 or 3 months reading through a pile of books, and I've still got a few of them on my desk, which I'm looking forward to getting to.
The colorful reception was a microcosm of dignitaries, VIPs, diplomats, and friends of the British Empire.
At this point in time, Nigeria needs all the support that we can get from everywhere. Of course, we've always been very close with Britain, and we know after Brexit, Britain needed lots of help. So, but we too, we need help. So, and I know we've been partnering in so many areas, but this is the time to expand our relationship, our interactions, and even intervention in so many other areas. We all need that support, and I hope that he's going to champion that.
We look forward for cordial relationship, as it has been existing before his arrival, for him to sustain it and to be more flexible with our people. You know, this is a time that more of our young ones aspire, you know, to travel. I'm not talking about Japa, but those that have intention of visiting and all that, and for those who are interested in going to UK to study. So, you know, flexibility is the answer. And most times the requirement, you know, to get visa seems to be difficult and also, but everything he can do to be helpful. So we look forward to that.
I think he's going to strengthen, he's got a real desire to strengthen the ties between Nigeria and the UK. His portfolio specifically around the economy, around technology, around investment and trade. And next year there's a big event in the UK as well for Sub-Saharan Africa, the Africa Investment Summit. So he's going to be working towards that. Creative industries is going to be really key. So not just the traditional sectors, but working with, I was going to say upcoming, but it's not an upcoming sector, the creative industries, with the massive talent in the creative industries. And bringing partners together, UK, Nigeria, within Nigeria, to really help build capacity, build those links, build those partnerships for the long term.
Just to continue to reach out, to continue to ensure that there is mutually beneficial reciprocal relationship between the UK and Nigeria, and to continue to support Nigeria in view of our long history and the deep roots between the two countries, to really help to lift us up as partners in progress. That's what I look forward to.
With his assumption of office in Lagos, Baxter, for the next 3 years, will head the British Deputy High Commission in Lagos. Ozzy Okoli, Arise News.
We say welcome, Ekabo, Sanu, to Mr. Johnny Baxter. We do hope that your tenure here in Nigeria, Lagos to be specific, will be successful. Moving on to the next story, with a crisis brewing in the new Nigeria People's Party, the Board of Trustees of the party has announced the suspension of its national leader and presidential candidate, Rabiu Kwankwaso. The party's National Working Committee has also been suspended. According to the Board of Trustees, Kwankwaso participated in discussions with prominent figures, including President Bola Tinubu, Atiku Abubakar, and Peter Obi, without authorization. The suspension, effective immediately, is expected to last for 6 months. During this period, a disciplinary committee will conduct an investigation into the allegations to determine the extent of Kwankwaso's involvement in the activities. All right, okay. One anti-party activity suspension from the NNPP and expulsion, apparently, of the founder. What's your take on this story?
It's just weird. It's a sign that our so-called democracy is yet to reach that point where we're not doing all the wrong things just to satisfy personalities. This one is not making any sense to me, because I listened to the two sides of the divide in this particular matter. There are members of the NNPP that I spoke with last night that said this cannot stand, that these are a bunch of people that have been suspended. And when you create a nation where you can do things boldly, and when you're done, you now tell the people that you have offended by your action, you say, you can go to court because we'll meet you in court. We've taken our decision. These are people that some part of the party are saying they're not members of the Board of Trustees. These are not members of even the party because they've been suspended, but they constituted themselves into an authority and they took a decision and they said, you are now suspended. So the case will now have to go to court for it to be resolved. So it's quite worrying. I don't know who is right in this matter, whether it is true that they've been suspended or not, because I don't have access to those facts. But all we know is that one more political party is facing very serious tension when all their focus should be in being an opposition that is going to speak truth to power, get the current government to do the right thing. But rather than that, they're busy fighting. Infighting is dividing them and creating a level of trouble that is not right for our politics and for our polity. Rufai.
Truth has to be said. I don't take most political parties serious in this country because they are just a bunch of purpose vehicles for the big man out there that can dole out the highest cash to bribe as much as possible and get his way in an election. Largely. Probably the days where we had ideology politics are long gone in Nigeria. So when you have internal wranglings, the question is, whose interests are they fighting for? And you have it across board in every political party. And that's why you have all sorts of iterations across board in political parties. I'm not surprised, you know. I remember when specifically Alhaji Buba Galadima was speaking about how they wanted to build a strong party. And a lot of people were challenging Alhaji Buba Galadima. They said, don't take this thing to heart too much. I'm sure he has seen things for himself now. That as long as it's the political nature of an average Nigerian, you can't take it to heart because you are going to have a lot of discordancy. What's happening in the NNPP? Since Rabiu Kwankwaso did not win the election, he's tried to make overtures and see how they can build a united front to be able to go against the APC. People internally are kicking against. People that have been suspended internally are fighting back. So it's now a game of who can cancel each other out. And when you look, you wonder, are these people even fighting for the interests of Nigeria? No, it's about themselves. It's about who gets what, when, and how. And that's just it. So I think in all of this, Nigerians should start to see these politicians for who they are. But how can Nigerians see the politicians for who they are when these people have created a society that feeds on lies, blackmail, and ignorance? But the third part of it is the large level of ignorance in Nigeria. But I'm also happy that that ignorance is being challenged now, and you are having a new breed of Nigerians that are questioning the status quo and asking questions. And that's the breed without greed that will change Nigeria. It might not be 5, 10, 20 years from now, but I see a new Nigeria coming. And that's what I hold on to as hope. But at the same time, you still have a lot of bandwagon of ignorant people, lying people, that only do it for their own political interest. I know it looks bleak as regards the political terrain in Nigeria as we speak, because you have crises in almost every political party. But I see a new Nigeria coming up. I don't know when it is, but I'll hazard a guess that it will be in my lifetime. And that's why Nigerians should see politicians for what they are, call them out, and start to tackle what we call the civilian coups of politicians. Like Ayo stated, for us to be able to build a nation that will stand on time. You can see everything falling apart with the political parties. Don't be surprised, more will still happen.
Right, so this is a very interesting story. And I say interesting because there are now two groups. One is the Lagos group, led by Dr. Aniebonam, who is said to be the founder of the NNPP. And the other group is the Abuja group, which is led by Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso. In a parallel NEC meeting, the Abuja group has now suspended Dr. Aniebonam, who suspended Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso in terms of for his anti-party activities, because they say that pending investigations, which should last about 6 months, they want to investigate whether indeed he has been involved in anti-party activities. But there are evidences to point to the fact that he's been having conversations with the president president who is under the APC, with Alhaji Atiku Abubakar from the PDP, and with Mr. Peter Obi from the Labour Party. We recall that last week we had actually spoken about that here, that there were perhaps conversations going on within the other parties against the APC to present a candidate or to work together. So this alludes or agrees with that point as well, since the party themselves are saying that Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso has been having conversations with these three parties. Again, we can't make any conclusions on this matter because it is a developing story. Whose camp will stand? Is it the camp, Lagos camp, which has said they are the legitimate camp and they have suspended Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, and also said that Alhaji Buba Galadima should stop parading himself as the secretary of the party? Or would it be Dr. Agbonam's side, who has said that they can substantively suspend Alhaji Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso? A conundrum, if you ask me. But the NNPP have to get their acts together. A house divided against itself cannot stand. We cannot have two factions. We already have the Labour Party, Abure faction and Apapa faction going on. Now we have the NNPP. So we see that what we need to begin to look at in the Nigerian political sphere are strong institutions. If we don't have parties who are strong, but are just here today, gone tomorrow, we don't know who is really leading, we don't know the constitution of the party, we don't know, there are factions and groups and just fighting when they don't win, then we have a fundamental problem. Because like you mentioned before, how do we then begin to build a strong opposition? If the opposition do not even have an ideology or do not have a position, all that is involved in a party structure in many cases are interests. And the moment your interest is defeated, you find the next party to look forward to go to. We had reports of a former governor who was mocking Alhaji Musa Kwankwaso for not making President Tinubu's ministerial list, saying that he had positioned himself to be minister of the FCT with the works he'd been doing in Kano, but unfortunately, he was disappointed. So you see that at the end of the day, whether it's APC or NNPP, what do political parties in Nigeria stand for? Do we have ideological parties in Nigeria? do we have anything to stand for here? So the drama unfolds.
Did you just say PDNNPP
well,
or PDAPC?
I just have to say, because it seems like the lines seem to be blurred. It looks like at the end of the day, if interests are aligned, everybody is playing for the same party.
Some people said PDAPC.
God bless PDAPC.
All right.